welcome back to Inside Number 23, my podcast which is all about sewing and knitting and generally living the craftiest life possible. My name is Katie and you can find me pretty much everywhere on social media as Miss Lavelli, although I'm most active on Instagram. We also have a Ravelry group for the podcast where you can get involved in things like knit-alongs, giveaways, all of that kind of good stuff. And if you want to get in touch with me regarding anything to do with the podcast, please do feel free to drop me an email. My email for the podcast is katie@insidenumber23.com, and that is pretty much all the blurb to get the episode started. I want to say a huge welcome back to any of my long-term viewers. It's so lovely to have you here with me again, and a big hello and welcome if this is your first time watching me this week. Thank you so much for coming to spend a little bit of crafty time with me. Something to start off with straight off the bat. My setup is a little bit different this week. It's because I've had to podcast quite late into the evening just because of time constraints and that type of thing. I really wanted to get an episode out for you this week, but that means I'm dealing with some crazy lighting. I have some really lovely studio lights that I've recently purchased to help me be able to record in winter because it tends to get dark very, very early, but it is giving me a slightly ghostly pallor, I must admit. Being one of the very pale people, it is difficult to make sure that your light balance is okay. So I'll do my best to balance things out, but hopefully we'll be able to get back to recording in the daylight hours as soon as possible and avoid looking too Bride at Frankenstein-esque, which isn't necessarily appropriate for the season. Who knows? I'm coming to you as always from Hertfordshire, which is just north of London in the UK, where I live with my husband Emrys and our lovely pug puppy Rolly, and I'm really happy to be back with you again this week. I feel like Christmas is getting ever closer. For those of you who celebrate Christmas, it is an incredibly hectic time of year, and that definitely seems to be the general feeling inside number 23 this week. I've been doing lots of Christmas preparation and fingers crossed it's not going to get too much. But in general, I am feeling very, very festive and very much looking forward to the real festive season beginning when I finish work and I can just enjoy this time of year and have a little bit of a break. That's definitely been helped along by the fact that I'm doing a Vlogmas this year. Yes, I am uploading a video every single day in the run up to Christmas. And I will probably be uploading a couple of videos between Christmas and New Year as well, with a couple of extra little bits and pieces, which is very exciting. So I hope that you have been enjoying Vlogmas if you've been watching, and if you'd like to check it out, I will pop a link down in my show notes, which all can be found just in the down bar below, if you want to have any details as to anything that I talk about in today's episode. So please enjoy. I'm going to start off this episode with a winner. Hooray! It's a winner for the Harry Potter Cal. Apologies that I haven't drawn this winner sooner. Thank you so much to everybody who has been getting involved in the Harry Potter Cal. It has been a wonderful experience knitting lots of Harry Potter themed bits and pieces over the past year. And I would be lying if I said I didn't have a kind of relief that it is going to be coming to an end. It has been a little bit problematic for me to keep the energy up for such a long cal, so it probably won't be happening again in the near future, but you guys make it so much easier with all of your gorgeous projects and sharing everything you do, so thank you so much for that. I have drawn the winner for November at last, and I'm very, very excited to say that it is post number 77, who is Knitty Moomin, and she knit the most incredible mermaid tail for this month of the cal. So congratulations. Please do drop me an email and I will get your prize out for you as soon as possible. And what is your prize, you may ask? Well, I have it for you just here. It's incredibly exciting, and because we are going to be bag twins. Yes, this incredible bag. I actually have one of these as well. It was sent to me and I absolutely adore it. It was sent to me by Nomadic Yarns, and they also included this incredible self-striping skein of yarn. This is the Bellatrix Lestrange colourway. It's on a stellina base. It's utterly stunning, and my goodness, you are going to absolutely love this. I loved working with my Nomadic Yarns self-striping, and of all the prizes that I've been giving out this year, this really is one that I'm going to be sad to say goodbye to. It's so beautiful. But yes, please do drop me an email and I will get that sent to you as soon as possible. Talking of sending prizes, guys, I've been horribly remiss. For anyone who is missing a prize, please bear with me. I will get it in the post for you as soon as I can. I've just had real problems being able to get to the post office because I keep getting snowed in, and then just life in general happens. But I know who you are, I have your details, and as soon as I have a minute, I will be putting your bits and pieces in the post for you. So thank you again for your patience, and I will do my best to get those to you ASAP, I promise. Okay, that's quite enough rabbiting on with to get started with, I think. Let's move on to some actual knitting content. I'm going to be avoiding what I'm wearing this week because it's a finished object. So I'm going to jump straight into what's on my needles because I have a finished object that I'm incredibly excited about. For those of you who have been watching my Vlogmas, you will already have seen this, what I'm wearing, and oh my goodness, I'm so excited to share it with you because, guys, I finished my Kerrytown Pullover, yes! This is the Kerrytown Pullover, and I could not be happier with this jumper, you guys. It is amazing. It has brought me so much happiness, and now that it's finished, I cannot stop wearing it. I'm going to hop up just so I can give you a slightly better view of how it looks. So as you can see, it has this incredible cabled panel that runs down the entire of the front of the sweater, and then on either side we have this really, really lovely interrupted garter stitch pattern, which has this beautiful kind of rib effect, which goes all the way round to the back. And if I can just hop up a little bit, can you see it's got this incredible dipped hem at the back, which I love because it covers my bum, and I love things that cover my bum and keep my bum warm. But yes, this pattern, this kind of ribbed textured pattern, runs across the whole of the back of the sweater. So the front really is where it's happening. It is so good. I'm just so happy with how this looks. I really, really am. It's just wonderful. It's wonderful, and I couldn't be happier with it, particularly as this sweater was a long time coming, because for those of you who've been watching for a while, you will know that the yarn I used for this project was knit almost entirely into another project, which was about 90% finished. I was making a kind of stockinette cardigan out of this yarn, which is Knitpicks Capra in the Tumeric colourway. So it's an MCN blend of Knitpicks yarn. And although I was enjoying working on that project, I just knew the more that I worked on it that I wasn't going to wear it when it was completed. So to have this kind of come out of it after having frogged and ripped back that entire project and then repurposed the yarn, I can't tell you how satisfying it is to have something not only completed out of that yarn, but to be something that I really, really love as much as I love this. A couple of things. The shape of this sweater, it's really nice and oversized, which I love. It's very, very comfortable to wear. But one thing that I would have liked to do if I'd had enough yarn, which I unfortunately didn't, is add a little bit more length to the sleeves. So the sleeves kind of just go down to about elbow length. And they're actually really tiny because of the dropped shoulder effect going on with the main sweater. So you knit like the tiniest amount of stockinette for the sleeves. They're really, really mini small, but because of obviously the shape of the sweater, they do come down relatively low to the elbow. Now, because this sweater is a DK weight sweater, it's very much something that you wear to be snuggly and to keep warm. I do wish that I'd had enough yarn to extend the sleeves slightly and just make them maybe 3/4 length sleeves as opposed to these little short ones, because as you can see, what I'm wearing underneath it at the moment, this shirt, I do like to wear things that come all the way down to my wrists because I do tend to get cold quite easily. But to be honest, I kind of like how it looks over a long sleeved top, so that doesn't bother me too much. And it does mean that it's going to be even more versatile because obviously I want it to be super warm at the moment because it's got very, very cold here in the UK. But the shorter length of sleeve does mean that I will be able to wear it in autumn and in springtime when it's slightly warmer, but there's still a little bit of a chill in the air. So it does make it a little bit more versatile, to be honest. So I guess I'm not sure whether I would change it, but that is something that does kind of cry out to me every time I put it on, that I get this kind of little wistful feeling that I wish that my sleeves were just a touch longer. So in an ideal world they would be, but other than that, this pattern, I cannot recommend it highly enough. Honestly, it was a joy to work on, and I would very, very happily knit another version of this sweater if I didn't have quite so many other projects kind of rattling around in the back of my brain, different projects that I wanted to start. If you are a fan of cables, this is a really, really fun one to do, because obviously you have the exciting front cable paneling and these beautiful little braids down either side, but there is a lot of it that is a little more brainless. So you have the entire back, for example, that's all just the textured stitch. It's broken up. So if you want to get into cables, yes, this central cable is a little bit complicated and you do need to concentrate, but because it's just a central feature, I think that it would be a really nice project to get you started if that was something that you wanted to pursue in terms of garment knitting. Plus, in terms of fit, because this is so oversized and there's a lot of positive ease in here, you don't necessarily need to worry too much about your dimensions in terms of fit. Also, because of the drop shoulder detail, you don't really have to worry too much about, you know, set-in sleeves or anything like that. As long as it's the right length for you and you feel comfortable in it, and I think the neck is sitting at the right place on you, you're pretty much good to go. So as maybe even a beginner garment, if you've got maybe a little bit of knitting under your belt, this would just be a fabulous project. And guys, I know I'm going on and on and on about it, but I really, really do love it, and I'm just so happy to have a garment off the needles. It makes my heart just grow 100 billion sizes. So yay, very, very happy. So I've just moved my light to one side, and I think it's slightly more flattering and not making me look like such a ghost. So we're going to try that. I've only set up one of my lights, and I think what might be more flattering is to have two, but that are aimed at slightly different angles across me, so I'm not being hit directly with light. But for now, we're just going to go with the one. This episode shall be forever known as the one where I was messing around with the lighting. So apologies for that, and let's crack on with what's on my needles. I have two different works in progress that have been bringing me a special amounts of joy this week, and the first is, of course, my crochet granny stripe blanket. I have been crocheting this blanket out of my advent calendar skeins that were given to me by my darling friends Amy and Nikki of Stranded Dye Works and Tea and Possibilities podcast. This has grown quite a lot since I last shared it with you, because I've been crocheting on it every single day. Look how amazing. Isn't this just a dream? Okay, so it's the kind of nuts and bolts of this granny stripe blanket. Again, it's an Attic 24 pattern, which is a free pattern. You just go to the Attic 24 website, which I'll obviously link down below, and it's the granny stripe pattern. So I followed that almost to the T, except I don't do the exact colour changes in the way that she does on her pattern, because she tends to do every 2 rows she changes the colour, whilst on mine, I just crochet as long as the mini skein that I'm working on is, so it gets this slightly more crazy colour scheme, where sometimes the colours go all the way across, and sometimes they're only in there for a little bit. Like this green I have in here is literally just in this area, but I love it so much. I love the little pops of colour. I really do think that the crochet granny stripe blanket is the way forward in terms of scrap yarn. I do love my Cozy Memories blanket, and I do want to get it finished, but I was talking about this on an Instagram live this week about why I have a lot more love for the granny stripe blanket. Maybe just at the moment, maybe it's something that will go back to the Cozy Memories blanket at some point. But right now, I love this because no matter how small the mini skein is, I can crochet it into this. And I don't feel that I've lost anything if it's only in there for a tiny period, like that that little kind of dash of lime green in there. When I knit my Cozy Memories blanket, which if you don't know what I'm talking about is another kind of scrap blanket that a lot of people have made with lots of little gartered squares, I will probably be bringing that out of storage soon to try and finish it as soon as possible. But I like to have just one colour per square in my blanket. I'm a bit pernickety about it, and so I have to have around about 5 grams of yarn in order to do that. So if I have slightly more than 5 grams, I end up with leftovers that I don't then want to knit into another square because I don't like repeating colours in my Cozy Memories blanket. Or if I've only got a little tiny scrap of yarn left over, in order to put it into the Cozy Memories, I'd have to combine it with another colour in order to make a complete square, and I don't like doing that. So that for me is why I really prefer doing this, because I can just put in as much yarn as I have, and it might be half of a row, it might be a whole row, it might be 2 rows, it might be 3 rows, whatever. I just think it has a lovely effect, and I like how kind of haphazard and all over the place it is. It just brings me so much joy. It really does. Oh, I've got yarn just dangling off me. Plus it's lovely that these skeins did come from, like I said, some of my really good friends. That makes it particularly special. But the other reason that I think that the granny stripe blanket is amazing is that I have started using the magic knot technique, which I never used for my Cozy Memories blanket. With my Cozy Memories blanket, I would weave in all my ends. I would basically knit a whole row of squares, and then I would go back and I would weave in every single end that I had for that row. With this, I just use the magic knot, which obviously means that you don't have any ends to weave in, and that in itself has just been brilliant. It's marvellous not having ends to weave in, because I know that there are some people who absolutely love doing that and who could spend hours finishing their projects, but end weaving it in really has to be one of the things that I enjoy the very least about knitting and anything kind of fibre wise. So to be able to magic knot beautiful little mini skeins into this and just crochet and crochet as I please, oh, hours of fun, and I'm well and truly down the crochet rabbit hole right now. I don't think that I will be crocheting anything other than this blanket for a while. I'm still very much a newbie crocheter, and my heart when it comes to garments and accessories and socks and that type of thing, it really does lie with knitting. But crochet is the way forward for blankets, I think, particularly scrappy ones. Yay! I have one other work in progress to share with you this week, and it is of course my crazy Christmas jumper. Last week I floated out the idea of wanting to start a Christmas jumper that hopefully I would get finished in time for Christmas, and I'm happy to say it has happened. It is living in my Christmas cats project bag, which I actually sewed myself. For long-term viewers, you might recognise this fabric because I actually started sewing a Christmas cat dress this time last year that never came to fruition, but I had some fabric left over and decided to whip myself up a Christmassy project bag instead, in time for Christmas last year. I believe I put my Christmas cast on in this last year, but it is now housing my Christmas jumper, which is in here, and I'm very happy to say that it's coming along. It's not anywhere close to being finished, but it's getting there, and because it is in Aran weight, I mean worsted weight, it's knit out of Quince and Co Lark in the Parsley colourway, which is this gorgeous squidgy green colour, which I love, and the pattern is, forgive me if my pronunciation is awful, Julgran by Andi Satterlund, one of my favourite knitwear designers. I worked on this actually last night at the knit night that I went to at Wild and Woolly, which was an absolute delight, and I had a marvellous time, and it's really starting to come together. I have got a lot of time set aside for this project in the next couple of days and at the weekend. So fingers crossed, by the end of this week, hopefully I will have made serious progress. Oh, I can't speak. Serious progress on this. But let me show you how much I've done so far. Ta-da! So I've done quite a fair chunk of this actually. I've already done the back and the front, and I've joined at the armholes, and I've started doing this incredible textured panel in the front, which, if you can see, is textured to look like a Christmas tree. It's amazing. When you knit this and that pattern starts coming alive, it's such a treat. It really, really is. But basically, the body of this sweater is done in reverse stockinette stitch. So it's all purl stitches, basically a lot of purl stitches, which I would have felt was a bit irritating because my purl stitches, like very many of us in the knitting world, are nowhere near as fast as my knit stitches. But if anything, I found that it's actually increased the rate that I can do purl stitches, which I'm very grateful for. And then the little tree texture in the front is all done in knit stitches, which obviously makes it stand out a little bit more. It's slightly difficult to see the tree just now because it does need a good block. It's going to get a lot of blocking, this, just to make sure that that pattern really does stand out. But what I will be doing once this is finished, as Andi did with one version of her sweater, is that I will be covering it with little baubles and stars and all kinds of things, like a little decorated Christmas tree. Because I want my Christmas jumper to be the epitome of kitsch, because who wouldn't want that out of a Christmas jumper? This is actually, is it my 5th Andi Satterlund pattern that I've worked on? Let me just think. I have my chuck sweater, I have my blaster cardigan, I have my Wainthrope cardigan. I feel like there's another one. I feel like there's another one, but for some reason, I can't remember. Let's just say that this is my 4th Andi Satterlund pattern, but every time I knit one of her patterns, I just fall back in love with her in terms of how she writes. I love her style. Her patterns I find incredibly easy to follow. This is pretty much just charted in terms of the tree pattern. So if you're not used to working with charts, you might find that a little bit challenging. But to be honest, I think that the charts and the way that they're written are really, really, really well done. And I honestly think that this isn't going to take very long at all to get finished now. I just need to stop crocheting on my crochet granny stripe blanket and start putting a little bit more time into this. But like I said, over the next couple of days, that's definitely going to be what my impetus is. And oh, isn't it just glorious? It's so sweet. In my heart of hearts, I would really have more than a handmade jumper to wear at Christmas. There is a possibility that I might try whipping up a simple dress or skirt to go with it. But for now, I'm just going to focus all of my energy on getting this done. And yeah, it's so much fun. It's a pattern that I love by a designer who I love, in yarn that I love, and it's Christmas themed, and I really couldn't ask for more. Plus it's a garment, which just makes me so happy. So yeah, Christmas jumper, crazy Christmas jumper challenge is coming on, and we're in a very good place. We've got 2 weeks till Christmas. I can knit a jumper in 2 weeks, no problem. I am very excited to be able to share a little bit of sewing with you this week for So What? It's been a while since I've actually shared a completed sewing project, which is odd because sewing has really been at the forefront of my brain recently. Every couple of days or so, I go into my craft room and I kind of rearrange my fabric and my patterns, and I think, oh, I'm going to make this, I'm going to make that. And now working obviously in a very, very sewing based environment where sewing patterns are my bag, all I'm surrounded with constantly is inspiration when it comes to sewing. So I'm really, really happy to have this finally to be able to share with you. This is a project that I actually had completed a little while ago. And excitingly, it was something that I completed because of my new job with Tilly and the Buttons. We were lucky enough to be able to do a collaboration with Spoonflower, which is an amazing website where you can pick different designs of fabric, different designs rather, and get them printed onto all kinds of different fabric. And myself and my colleague actually both chose some fabric and made Christmas festive outfits, which are now on the Tilly and the Buttons website. So I am actually going to link the article down below. It's really exciting because it's one of the first times that I have been included on a blog post for Tilly and the Buttons, the company that I now work for, and I have so much love in my heart for. So head over to that if you feel like taking a look and seeing a couple of pictures of myself and Joe in our Christmas outfits. But oh my goodness, I'm so excited to finally be able to share this with you, which is my completed Francoise dress. So I shared this a couple of times on Instagram whilst it was still in progress, and some of you, I think, were convinced that it was going to be another Rogue Bluet. The Bluet dress by Deer & Doe is pretty much my go-to pattern. I've made numerous versions of it, and I'm just a sucker for a nice dress pattern with a collar, so it really shouldn't surprise you that Francoise is just in my heart of hearts. It makes me incredibly happy. But yes, this is Francoise. Oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. I love this pattern. This is my first time ever making the Francoise dress pattern. I've made a lot of Tilly and the Buttons patterns in the past, but not this one. And it's been calling out to me since this past summer, where I actually purchased some tartan fabric, which I thought would make a perfect Francoise. This one came first. I now know exactly what size will fit me, so I think it's only a matter of time before I have another Francoise in my wardrobe. But yes, this one was specifically designed with a kind of festive party dress feel in mind, and I actually shared the fabric with you before. It's this beautiful, delicate woodland print fabric. And this fabric that it's been printed on is the crepe de chine, which is quite lightweight. It's very, very floaty and not structured. I mean, you can see it's just floopy and light and beautiful and delicate. And to be perfectly honest, that isn't ideal for Francoise, because the dress, by its nature, it's kind of like a little 60s style mod dress, needs a little bit more structure in order to work well. So one thing that you will see, if you can see the inside of the dress, is that it's fully lined. So I have a whole other layer of fabric underneath this dress, which gives it a little bit more body, which means when you wear it, it still kind of holds its little 60s mod style shape, which is lovely. But it's just a dream to wear because the fabric is kind of so light and floaty. It just kind of hangs really beautifully. It doesn't cling. It's not kind of super polyester sticky, and it didn't kind of cling to my body in awkward places. I felt very, very comfortable wearing it, and it's kind of a nice A-line shape. So you have a little bit of movement, a little bit of room to breathe, which I really appreciate. And for like a festive dress, I wanted something that I would be able to kind of prance about in, as is my wont at Christmas time. But also, for example, I wore this to our Christmas lunch. I wanted to be able to sit down and be able to enjoy food and not feel that I was too tightly packed into a dress. So again, this wins a lot of prizes for just being a very versatile outfit. The detail that I really, really love that I added, you guys know I'm a sucker for a contrast collar. I usually do a Peter Pan collar, so I would kind of curve off the edges, but I just think that this collar looks so pretty with the points that I didn't want to mess around with it too much. But one thing that I did do was add a little bit of beading detail, which hopefully this will be able to focus on for you guys, if you can see. It's a mixture of faux fur pearls that I actually collected from some vintage pearl necklaces that broke, that I've had for a long time. But it also has these tiny little seed beads, some sequins of different colours, different size faux fur pearls, faux pearls. I don't know why I'm saying faux fur pearls, because there's no fur on this at all, but faux pearls. If I had had enough time, I genuinely would have liked to completely bedazzle the entire collar of this dress, because that's kind of where my heart lies. I love things that are big and over the top, but everybody else says that they really love the subtlety of just a little bit of detailing on the collar, and I just love it. I'm so happy with it, how it turned out. And it was just a really lovely project. It wasn't necessarily something that I would have made if it hadn't been for the collaboration that we were doing at work, but now that it's in my wardrobe, I know that it's going to get a lot of wear, particularly around this time of year. But for anything really, it's so cute, and it's quite short as well. Ugh, if I can just show you, it's mini skirt length, which is kind of nice. I'm not usually the type of person who goes to the real mini skirt length. I much prefer something to be just above the knee, but this is different for me and I like it. So yeah, that's my finished object in terms of sewing, and I am really happy with it. I am now going to move on to a cheeky bit of stash enhancement, kind of slash owl post, because something arrived in the post for me this week which I was expecting, which I'm so excited about for a couple of different reasons, which I'm going to be getting into a little bit more in my general waffle segment, but also a really amazing surprise package also arrived, and I'm just blown away. So I'm going to share with you the little bit of owl post first, because it's so amazing and my heart just is full. It's full. But yes, this parcel arrived and I kind of knew that it was coming because one of my lovely friends, Maria of the Tuscan Knits podcast and Tuscan Knits yarn, which is stunning. If you haven't bought any of Maria's yarn, you really need to. I'm going to link her website and her details down below because she is an incredible indie dyer whom I adore. You may or may not remember, I actually made a pavement sweater out of Maria's yarn earlier this year, which I striped in 2 of her different colours, just a rose and pigwidgeon. I love that sweater. It is so beautiful, and working with her yarn was just a joy. So you should definitely check her out because she is just wonderful and her podcast is awesome. She's such a beautiful human being. But yes, gushing aside, Maria got in touch with me kind of out of the blue and said that she had found something online that she thought that I would really like and wanted to send it to me. And it was a real shock and a real surprise, and I was very overwhelmed to hear that she would want to send me something. But then it kind of slipped my mind because I've been so busy. But this morning, postman arrived and had a lovely parcel for me, and I thought, I don't remember ordering any fabric. And yet, fabric there was. Not just any fabric. Oh my goodness, you guys, look at this. Oh my lord, it's so beautiful. I actually want to cry. It is cotton lawn fabric, which is one of my favourite fabrics to work with. Cotton lawn is just one of the most delicate and airy and beautiful cottons that you will ever use, and I love this. Oh my word, it is stunning, and it's from one of my favourite sites in all the world, which is Fabric Godmother, who tends to have an incredible selection of different prints, but this is just this stunning kind of like powder blue grey colour with all these beautiful little mustard flowers, and oh my goodness, I don't even know what I will use this for. It's crying out to be something fresh and spring-like, maybe a blouse or maybe a simple summer dress or skirt, something like that. Maybe even a maxi skirt. That would be absolutely beautiful in this fabric. But right now I just want to enjoy it and stroke it and pet it and love it forever because it's gorgeous. And the fact that Maria saw this and thought of me and wanted to send it to me, just, there were tears, I'm not going to lie. I've been a little emotional recently and this just made my heart so happy. So Maria, thank you so much. I can't wait to use this for something special. But like I said, I want to make sure it's the perfect project before I cut into this. So this may be kind of taking a back seat for a while whilst I find the perfect project. But oh my God, I love it so much. So much. Thank you, Maria. But the joy and excitement of things that turned up in the post this week doesn't end there, because like I said, I made a cheeky purchase this week as well, and it was completely and utterly because of some of my lovely, lovely podcasting knittery friends who have been doing a lot of colour work recently. So obviously you have Ellie of Skein Deer Knits, who is the most prolific colour work knitter that I know, and everything that she makes is stunning, including her designs, which she sells on Ravelry. But in addition to that, my lovely friend Kristen of Vool and Vine Yarns and the Yarngasm podcast has been doing a lot of colour work. My friend Amy of Stranded Dye Works has been doing a lot of colour work. Nikki has been doing colour work. Everybody's been doing colour work, and I feel left out. So when a little post popped up on Instagram this week from lovely Isolde about some yarn that was available at her website that had just come back into stock, I may have treated myself to something a little bit special. Now, Isolde published a collection of patterns recently. It was the latest edition of her Knitworthy series that included some beautiful patterns, but also a set of colourwork mittens, which I have been seeing in various people's feeds for a while because they are beautiful and I absolutely love them. Whenever I saw them, I kind of went, oh, that's so pretty, so lovely. And then it just slipped my mind again. When I saw that these kits for these particular mittens were back in stock, I thought, ooh, that's exciting. But then I found out that the pattern was just available with the Knitworthy collection, and that was a little bit more expensive than I was kind of willing to pay at that time. And you know, it's Christmas, we're spending a lot of money on presents, and I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't, because you know, I'd have to pay more to get that collection, and although it's beautiful, it's a little bit more than I was kind of thinking about spending at this time. And then a couple of days later, I found out that in a matter of days, that pattern was coming up for individual sale on Ravelry. So this colourwork mittens pattern that I've been lusting after actually is now available as an individual pattern, and that really sealed the deal for me. So very excitingly, I have some yarn. I've left it in its little bag because I don't want to get it out just now, because I know that I will be so tempted to cast it on right away, and I don't want to cast it on right away. More on that in just a moment. But this is a collection of the, and oh my goodness, forgive me, I believe it's Ralma, how it's pronounced, and this is 100% Norwegian wool, which is perfect for colour work. Oh my goodness, this is the DK weight, I believe, and it's perfect for the colourwork mittens. It's actually the exact yarn that was used in the pattern, and it's gorgeous. It's got a little tiny bit of grip to it, so for colour work that is ideal, but it isn't kind of super scratchy. Like, even putting that against my neck, I don't feel really itchy having that. And so this is going to be a really gorgeous pair of colourwork mittens in the near future, because colourwork is coming back into my life, you guys. And for those of you who think, where's the bowline cardigan? I'm hoping that that will come after after I work on these mittens, that I will get the impetus to finish the long languishing colourwork cardigan that I have had in the works for many a year, the bowline cardigan, for those of you who don't know, which I love, and it would be such a relief to finally get that off the needles, I'm not going to lie. But for now, I'm going to stick with some colourwork mittens in this gorgeous yarn, and as you can tell, this is a palette that I'm really feeling at the moment. So I think that these are going to get a lot of wear and a lot of love, and I'm just so stinking excited about them. I believe that these kits in 2 different colours are still available on Isolde's website, so if you want to grab some for yourself as a little pre-Christmas treat, or maybe a treat for the new year, then you should definitely do so. They're very reasonably priced. This yarn is relatively inexpensive anyway. It's not going to break the bank, but to get all 3 colours specifically in the kit for the mittens, you do get a little bit of a discount than if you were just buying 3 skeins of this yarn individually. So again, I really recommend it, and I can't wait. I can't wait to cast these on, but there is going to be a little bit of a hiatus. But I'm going to get into that now a little bit more for my final segment, which is, of course, General Waffle. General Waffle. For those of you who don't know, my General Waffle is the end of my podcast where I get to waffle on about anything and everything that takes my fancy. And this week, mittens. Mittens, you guys. They're in the forefront of my brain. I want more mittens in my life, and it's let me take a breath, take a step back and kind of explain to you where my head is at right now. This time of year, when we're getting to mid-December, the end of the year, I always get very reflective. I'm one of those people who likes to set New Year's resolutions. I know some people don't believe in them, and to be honest, I don't really kind of stick to my New Year's resolutions, really I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this and this. But I do love having that little bit of introspection, looking at where your life is, about a couple of things that you may want to change or adjust, and just kind of think about setting up some new habits in your life, or be it professional, be it personal, whatever. And I've really been thinking about what I want to do in terms of my knitting and crafting next year in 2018. Now, I am planning an episode that's going to kind of fall between Christmas and New Year, that I'm going to talk a lot about some things I've done this year and some plans for next year. But one thing that I am certain is going to be included in 2018 is colourwork knitting, in particular mittens. For those of you who've been watching Vlogmas, you will know that I've already talked about this, and that is that my lovely friend Ellie of Skeimdir, who's been getting a lot of mentions on this week's podcast, but why not? Because she is a beautiful human being. She talked about, on one of her most recent podcast episodes, doing a knit-along, year-long knit-along. I think that's how the year-long knit-along for 2018. Which is kind of similar to the box of socks Cal. The idea is that the knit along spans the entirety of 2018, and you end up with 6 pairs of mittens by the end of 2018, which I think is very, very reasonable, because the box of socks Cal means that you have to knit at least 12 pairs of socks. And although I was taking part in that next year, I have fallen off the wagon quite horribly, and there's no way that I'm going to have 12 pairs of socks for the box of socks Cal this year. And I really do think, because I have tried to take part in that for the last 2 years, that it's time to maybe take a break from sock knitting and turn my attention to something that I think is going to help me improve my skills as a knitter, that's going to kind of broaden my mind to some different things. Because colour work, although I did a lot of it a little while ago, it has been a while since I've really, really invested some time in not just the techniques of colour work, but the different designers that are out there, the different yarns that are more appropriate for it. And the more that I talk to Ellie about colour work, and the more that I see what everybody else in the knitting community is doing with all of their beautiful colourwork mittens and such, I just want to be a part of the colourwork club again, you guys. So I am very, very, very much going to be taking part in the knit along. That means that I will be knitting at least 6 pairs of mittens throughout 2018, and there are already some patterns that I am very, very excited to be casting on. Now, obviously, I already have the yarn for Ysolde's mittens pattern, so that is most likely going to be the first pair of mittens that I cast on. So the reason that they are staying in the bag for now is that I'm thinking that I'm going to have a lovely New Year's Day cast on of a pair of colourwork mittens, and it's going to be that gorgeous pattern by Ysolde. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing, and yeah, it's going to give me a little bit of time to hopefully clear a couple of projects off the needles first, because I do have a pair of colourwork mittens that I've been working on for a while that I would like to get off the needles, so that I can start these ones with a clear conscience. But in terms of other patterns, obviously Ellie's patterns are pretty much number one on my to-do list, my to-knit list, shall we say, in terms of being projects that I would really like to get done in 2016. Ellie was generous enough to gift me a copy of her mittens club that she did this year, but she also has a beautiful selection of other patterns, including pumpkin spice latte mittens, mittens with the most beautiful little deer patterns on them. And from what I can gather, if you are new to colourwork, in particular colourwork mittens, Ellie's patterns are the best place to start, because she literally kind of just gets rid of all of the nervousness and is very clear and concise, and I'm just, oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about all of these mittens that I'm going to have, because something that I've found since the weather has got so much colder here and we've had snow, we've had -degrees temperatures, I've been wearing the mittens that I knit, oh my goodness, for my New York trip in January, which are a lovely pair of cabled mittens knit out of John Arbon's textiles. They're knit by numbers in the 4-ply weight, and they're beautiful, but they do kind of lack something, I think, in terms of warmth. They are quite warm, but I know for a fact that the second that I try on a pair of colourwork mittens, the warmth that you get from these things is insane. And I just love them. I think that they're a lovely accessory to have, and something that I will be getting into more in terms of my looking back at the year and what I want to do for the future. Something that I've realised is that I'm not really an accessories knitter in some ways, more on that at a later date, but the one thing that I do love is gloves and mittens and things to go on my hands, basically little wrist warmers, maybe hand warmers. And if I'm going to be not necessarily knitting as many smaller accessories, it will be really lovely to have a couple of little projects that are just incredibly special, which I think that colourwork mittens are. So yeah, guys, that's my waffly waffle for this week. Are you guys excited about the knit along for 2018? Is it something that you are going to get involved in too? Do you have any patterns that you are chomping at the bit to knit? I would really like to hear your thoughts about it, and maybe share what patterns you're going to be working on, if there are any in particular that have been calling your name. Or maybe you're not interested and you just want to stick with your box of socks. That's absolutely fine as well. Do what makes your heart happy, you guys. I just know that mittens are the thing that are gonna make, oh, my heart is gonna be so happy. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So that's everything for the podcast this week, you guys. Again, apologies about the slightly weird lighting. I'm going to do my best to do some experiments and try and work out what is going to be best for the future. But yeah, thank you for sticking with me. If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. It means a lot, and it helps other people see our videos when you promote us a little bit, which is lovely. Do hit the subscribe button if you want to be kept up to date as to when there are new videos on the channel. Obviously, I'm doing Vlogmas at the moment, but I do have a couple of other little mini videos planned between Christmas and New Year. So if you want to be alerted as to when those are up on the channel, just hit subscribe. For now, I hope you all have a wonderful week filled with knitting and sewing and festive cheer, if that is your bag. And if you just, if you don't celebrate at this time of year, or you just don't like this time of year, I hope that you're happy doing something that brings you joy. But for now, I'm gonna say goodbye. I love you all so much. I will see you next week, which will be our final episode before Christmas. Oh my goodness. From me to you, have a great one. I'll see you next week. Bye!